everyone. Welcome back again. My name is Amna.
And I'm Brandon.
Today we're going to be testing the correlation between education and crime rates in different cities.
So we need to calculate the correlation coefficient. And to do that, we need to find Pearson's R.
If our correlation coefficient is closer to 1, that means that there is a stronger relationship between those two variables.
And if R is negative, that means there's a negative correlation. If it's 0, there is no correlation. And if it's positive, there's a positive correlation.
So without further ado, let's take a look at the data that we collected.
So we try to test the correlation between education and crime in 4 different cities.
These numbers right here represent the level of education or crime rates in those 4 different cities.
The higher the number, the higher the level. Okay, so the first step in calculating Pearson's R is finding the average for education and the average for crime. So for education, we're going to add all of these up. That's going to equate to 76, and we're going to divide it by the total, 4. That's going to be 19. And for crime, same thing. We're going to add this all up. It's going to add up to 40 and divide it by the total. So 40 divided by 4 is 10. And those are our averages.
Now that we have the averages of both education and crime, we can find the difference between the averages and the actual score in a given city. In order to do that for education, you take 20 minus 19, and that gives us 1. And then you're just going to go ahead and subtract from all those numbers from the average for the rest. Now we're going to do the same thing for the level of crime. We're going to subtract the actual score from the average. So 3 minus 10 give us -7, and so on and so forth.
All right, now that we've found the differences, we need to make sure that the sum of these differences is 0. If not, then we need to look back because maybe there's a problem. Now, once we've found the differences, we have to square them.
Now for the last part of this entire table, we are going to multiply the differences that we found for each category. So for this one, we're going to do 1 times -7, which is -7. And then 13 times -3. And then -3 times 5. And then 5 times -11. That's it. Next, you have to find the standard deviation for both of the variables that we're testing. In order to do that, you have to first add up all your numbers that you squared. And for this one, we got 300 and 108. And now to actually calculate the standard deviation, it would be the square root of whatever your number was added up, so 300, over the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is n minus 1, and since we have 4 categories, it would be 4 minus 1, which is 3. So 300 over 3 equals to square root of 100, which equals 10. And you're going to do the same process, but now for 108. These are our standard deviations for education and crime.
Now we have to find our covariance. To find that, we're going to have to add this column up, which equals -116, and we're going to divide it by our degrees of freedom, which we've established is 3. So we're going to do -116 divided by 3, and that's going to be -38.6. Continue.
Now that we have our covariances and our standard deviations, we can find the correlation coefficient. What you do is you have -38.6, our covariance, at the numerator, and divide it by the product of both of the standard deviations, so 10 times 6. R, after you calculated all that, is going to equal negative 0.64.
Since our correlation coefficient equals negative 0.64, that means there's a strong negative correlation between education and crime rates within these 4 cities.
So based off of our data, the higher level of education you had, the lower the crime rates were.